Hello, and welcome back to Board to Life. Today is our first episode of playing through Dragon Eclipse. Now, I have actually, not personally, but I have skipped the first scenario for the sake of videos, being that most people will have pretty much the exact same route for the most part through that, with the exception of your choice of mistling. So I will be continuing from scenario 2. However, I will go through the very end step of the first scenario, as well as what happened in the first scenario. So first I wanted to show we have our little tamer model, and I will be placing this on the script so I don't lose where I am if I have to reference something else. And we may or may not be changing camera angles throughout this video just due to space here, because I have all sorts of stuff right to the side of this. You can actually see some of it over here. But the other reason I didn't want to do the first one is because there's a tutorial for it, and the tutorial assumes that you're picking between Emberling or Iceling, the young versions, as your starting mistling, and I went with the follower gift Luminessa instead, which doesn't quite work with the tutorial, so it's a little different. So I'm going to assume that, being that it's the first adventure, I know there's a lot of stuff out there on specifically that scenario already, and I will be continuing from there onward. This will probably be a longer video, but I will most likely be splitting it into parts and cutting out the setup time in between things. So, first scenario that happened, we essentially started in Careburg, basically the leader of the tamers in the city, trying to manage the different mistlings, and essentially a wind raiser goes a little bit crazy and starts attacking things. Yeah, do a little fight with them, calm it down after having chosen your mistling of choice that you're starting with. And then you explore the city a little bit, or village, town, whatever it is. You go out, you explore some forest, find this interesting cave ruins area, and I actually found a secret exit from that. And on the way in, you do actually fight Golemo. Whether or not you manage to properly tame it, so long as you win the fight, you will still automatically get it. Now, little part that I got confused about, and that's the other reason I didn't want to do the first one, because I was still trying to figure out the rules myself, and I don't want to show everyone the wrong way to do something. So, the other thing I'll mention is once you have Golemo from that encounter, you do not get to use the mistling right away. You have to wait until the next scenario, which is going to always be the case. So they're just added to your party until then, which is not something you can access actively. So I'll just show some of the stuff that's changed. As to our status sheet, I have Empathy Part 1, Forest Predators Part 1, Merchant's Favor Part 1, Secret Exit, because I did the secret in the cave, and then Understanding Part 5. And then we'll pull up our world map sheet, which yours should look the same as mine. We get these three. That was the first part of the setup for this. And then I have special edition, so I have the fancy looking mistling encyclopedia. If you don't and you just have the cards, this will look a little bit different. But what I have in here is the entry for Young Luminessa. You can pause that if you want to read that in detail. As well as the entry for Golemo, both sides. And then a basic entry for Windraiser. And also, I will be playing with basic sleeves that I have for the cards I'm commonly using, as well as the combat deck box sleeves for the cards for mistlings. And because I'm playing Luminessa, I will be using the light sleeves. This is the fatigue card. Don't really want that, but actually I get to remove that because the scenario is over as well. But we'll do that in a moment with the setup. So, I've gained those, and we're going to continue. So, the next step, which is a pretty common step, I believe, when completing scenarios, is we take one of these booster packs, and if you have standard edition, or if you're playing through this a second time, you're just going to have the other little pouches for these. But I'm just going to shuffle them up like that, and pick one. And we get to open this. So that's actually really exciting. Let us take a look at this. And this will go behind my unlocked cards divider. They actually did a decent job of this considering they've never tried doing anything like that before. Okay. Should I go in the other order? I don't know. Yeah, that seems better. So we have Dive, which is cleanse one attack, and then it has a passive, so when it's face up in your discard pile, get plus X defense where X is your speed, and that is a wind card. We then have a dark card, Lurking Shadow. So attack and drain, so you heal from that attack. This attack has Pierce 4 if you have at least 6 cards in your discard pile. We have Searing Radiance. So you'll deal 3 damage in any range, and then if the target is dark, you'll deal another 3 in any range. That I might be using with Luminessa, because that's a light. We have another light, another Searing Radiance. And then we have another Wind of Gale Force Strike, where you blink X, where X is the card's slot. And then you can spend 2 power to attack with Pierce 1. And if you're fighting a Earth, you gain 2 power. So just refund that. We have another Gale Force Strike. A Morbid Aura. Yeah, so this is one where you play it and then you have, sorry, camera angles. This is one where you play it and then it actually stays in effect until you end up reshuffling your entire deck. So this one actually is a little different where you don't discard it when you reshuffle your deck. It just does something when you reshuffle your deck. There's 2 of that. Then we have Earth Prickly Underbrush. So you would gain a power and then passive of whenever you gain or are dealt damage, you deal 2 damage in range 1. It's a little defense, essentially. Another one of that. Flaming Spear. I think the intent is that a lot of these are doubled, so if you have 2 players, they can both use it, but I'm not entirely sure. So Flaming Spear, you deal 3 damage in range 2, and then you can spend a power to deal a burn in range 2. And then if you're fighting, I believe that's water, you deal 2 damage in range 2. So is that water? That's interesting. Yeah, that's water. It's interesting that water would be more affected by this. And then we have another one of that, and our foil card, which has the fun little texture on the bottom in the picture, of Fathomless Tide. So you gain 1 power, and then whenever you search X, gain X of power. So we take those, we place them behind the advancement deck divider, right? Yeah, no. We put this behind the unlocked cards, and then we pull out the advancement deck. And I will cut to that. Okay, so we have the advancement deck right here. And it says to take 8 cards, -1 for every fatigue I have in a Mistling deck. So I have 1 fatigue right now, so I'm going to be drawing 7 cards. And I believe I am selecting 3 of these and placing them behind the unlocked cards divider, and then the rest will go back. So I believe these are all these are all generic non-elemental cards. We have Regeneration. If it's in slot 3, you can move, and then you get to heal. Healing is really nice, because I don't actually think I have any cards for that. We have Heavy Strike, so you can attack and then move an opponent up to 2 spaces. You could Reach, which gives you a power, and then your attacks will have extra range, and that stays out. According to Plan, which allows you to move and then attack if it's in slot 3. Smart Approach, which places a card from your discard on the top of your deck. I like a lot of these, actually. So I get to choose 3. I like the idea of being able to move, so I'm thinking heal, so I'd like to do Regeneration. I like the idea of reach, but I also like moving and attacking. I think I'm going to say smart approach, regeneration, and either heavy strike or reach. Because I don't have anything passive. I think I'm going to take heavy strike. And then these will get placed behind my unlocked cards, and the advancement deck will go back where it is. And then it instructs me to remove all fatigue. I only have one fatigue card, so I will just take it out of its card sleeve here and place it back in the box. And then I also get to fully heal my mistlings. I do actually have some damage, so I have on my little party area right now, I currently am carrying 4 silver and 5 damage, so I take that damage and I get rid of it. Silver is kept between scenarios, so that will just go back in the tray. I will also mention right now that I have 2 equipment and 2 items on me. That is the max of each. You can only have 2 equipment, 2 items. My equipment is a bag of powder, which functions as a rope, but also I can basically destroy it to cleanse 4 once in combat. Phosphorescent fungus, which doesn't have a separate effect, but counts as food and fire, or light, I guess. We have the hobnails, which are, like most items, a 1 use. You use it, and during the next move you move 1 more. And then we have a treat, which you can use to add or subtract 3 from a test result. And then we're going to go through any before the scenario stuff for the next scenario in the rulebook, as well as I'm personally going to go through the advanced rules myself. I will probably be doing a rules overview at some point, but for now I'm not worrying about that. I'm just going to read that myself separately. I bumped the camera. And then we're going to go to the next scenario, which is 2 pages over. Shadow, oh, it's off camera. Shadow of the Dragon. Okay, we're going to go through the setup for the next scenario. So, first of all, just gathering all your components together, and then confirming that you have all your items and silver and essence together. I don't have any essence because that's not a thing that happens yet in the campaign. But I have done that. I have that set to the side here. So then we're going to navigate the world map. So I'm going to show how this works. You're kind of limited in options still at this point. It will open up a lot more later. But basically, there's nothing in this one. We've already done this. This is like the main Careberg area, and this is the little cave ruins area. So what we do have is this B0 Shadow of the Dragon scenario available. So if you were to be having like any amount of map movement, you could always use your tamer miniature. However, we don't need to do that. There's only 1 spot anyway. So we're going to script B0 essentially. So we choose that and we find that script and we'll read that script. And usually they'd give you the option to choose another place instead. We don't get to do that here because it's the only scenario we can do. I will go through that in a moment. So we're essentially going to read through that, and then it's going to give us some hints and such because it is still one of the starting ones. So, oh yes, I should also mention, at the end of the previous scenario, we saw a very large shadow go through the sky and assumed that it could only possibly be a dragon guardian, or something like that. So, Shadow of the Dragon, Introduction. The shadow in the sky heads towards Careberg, and you try to ignore the growing fear in your heart. If that thing really is a dragon, will it attack the city? Or is it here because of some dire danger? The tremor, perhaps? You shake the thoughts off and take a deep breath. You're exhausted. What if what you saw was the shadow of a bird flock cast over the cloud? No, you're not mistaken. It must have been a dragon. The forest is tranquil, as if unsure of what awaits. No birds sing, no animals prowl, and no mistlings let out their distinct cries. Suddenly, the trees bend under a mighty gale striking the hill, which throws you to your knees. The chaos, the noise, it all makes the day even more surreal. You glance at the Golemo, who guards your other companion with its arms. Their bond is already strong. although it is only a couple of hours old. Okay, so, oh, it's a combat? So they're saying, that's interesting. So they're saying attacks that target multiple opponents might be useful. And then this is the last chance to change your starting companion to who will assist you for the rest of the game. So this is where if you chose Iceling or Emberling and you don't want the one you chose, or if you chose Luminessa in my case, I'm keeping Luminessa. I want to play with the follower gift option. This is where you could switch to one of them. Otherwise, you'll have to wait until you find them in a random combat to try and tame them. And in a two-player game, you normally, it says you wouldn't be able to. You technically would, because if you have the follower gift, you'd be able to have a third option, even if you're playing a two-player game. And normally it would have both characters in use. And then also at this point, if you have Emberling or Iceling, you'd gain the Ember or Ice status. And then I get to choose two Mistlings to accompany me in this scenario. So I will be choosing Luminessa and Golemo. Now these are the only two Mistlings I currently have available to me. I'm just setting them over there. I know it's slightly off camera, but they'll be on camera when it's important. And then, yes, and they say when you're playing solo, you have no choice other than to take the Golemo and the starting Mistling. Whereas if you were playing with two players, you'd have the third option for the other starter. And then, let's see. I'm now able to use all the starting decks, so basically the other starting deck as well, and all cards unlocked. So I need to create two decks, one for each Mistling. And it goes through how to do deck construction here. I'm going to go through the rules on it, and then I'm going to do it and say what I put in my decks. So for how to perform deck construction, basically before each scenario, except the first one, you're going to create a deck for two Mistlings, and those are the two Mistlings you have for that scenario. So you're going to take all the cards that are unlocked and all the Mistling cards for the Mistlings you're choosing, and you're creating a deck for each Mistling, essentially. So you can only put action cards in the deck. You're not going to have any fatigue or anything because it's the start of a scenario. It has to be exactly 16 action cards, with a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 6 Mistling-specific ones. It's a maximum of 6 because there are 6 per Mistling, and you have to have at least 3. So there's that, and then you can only have one legendary card. I don't think we have any legendary cards right now, but I could be wrong. And a deck cannot contain cards that do not match the element of the chosen Mistling or its subtype element. So I'm not sure if either of ours actually have a subtype element. I will check that while constructing my decks, but it would be under their primary element icon. And then you can always add neutral cards. And then if it has, oh, there is an example for the subtype element. So here's where it is. So you have your primary element, and then you have your subtype, and it tells you how many cards of that type you can have. Because you can't, like, have a earth and put all water in it. And then after you do that, you put them back in the tray, and then you can begin the scenario. So I am going to go ahead and build my decks, and I'll be back to show how that went. Okay, I have assembled my two decks for my Mistlings. So starting out with Luminessa over here. I will also go through the Mistling statistics real quick. So Luminessa has 0 willpower, which sounds bad, but it's fine. 1 defense, 17 health, 3 attack, and 2 speed. Has the special ability of 4 power for Fading Light, which will deal 1 damage in any range for each brightness you have, and then you discard a brightness. Luminessa's whole thing is about charging up brightness. So the light element bonus actions are 1 to dash, 1 to prepare, which are the standard ones. And then for the elemental one, it's 1 power to exchange, which will deal 1 damage with Pierce 2 in any range, and then you gain 1 damage. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I feel like it could be useful at some times. Combat quest, young Luminessa needs to know if you can protect it. You just have to end the combat without any damage. And that's how you get the Exalted Mistlings. I have not done that yet because the tutorial one, I actually did win the tutorial combat with full health, but they don't give you the quest card until after that, but probably to prevent you from just easily completing it. And then for my 16 card action deck here, which shuffles really nicely with the sleeves, we have Searing Radiance. There's 2 copies of that somewhere, which will deal 3 damage in any range and then deal another 3 if I'm fighting something dark. Guardian Stance, which gives me power and +2 passive armor. Light Vortex, which I gain a brightness. I can spend 2 power to gain another brightness. And then I attack in range 2. If I'm fighting a dark, I gain another brightness. Focus, which is just move and then you can discard another card. Another Searing Radiance. Brilliance, which you gain a brightness. You can spend 2 to gain an additional brightness. And then you move and you can deal 2 damage in range 2. We also have Primal Shot, which deals 2 damage in range 2. Heavy Strike, which allows me to attack and then move an opponent in range 1 by up to 2 spaces, so I can knock them away. Pummel, which is just an attack. Brilliance, which is referenced previously. Bask in Sun Rays, which discards the top 3 cards of my deck, and then gives me a brightness for each light card discarded. And then I also gain a power for each neutral card discarded. There's 2 of that. Regeneration, which if it's in slot 3, lets me move +1. And then me and my ally within range will heal 2. And they have to be range 1. Desperate Attack, which is gain 1 damage to attack +2. Hit and Run, which is attack at -1, but then you can move. And another Light Vortex. As to Golemo, we'll pull up his little mini again. He has 0 willpower, 0 defense, 24 health, which is a lot more, 2 attack, which is a little less, and 1 movement, which is not great. But he is very tanky, and he can do quite a bit of damage. So for his special actions, he can do 2 power to Tromp, which will place a Quake in range 2, or he can do 8 power for Tremors, and then each opponent will take 2 damage for each Quake within range 2 of them. Now, when I was fighting him initially, I got to a point where everywhere on the board was within range 2. So that can actually be quite dangerous. And then for the combat quest, it's in 1 turn you have to deal 12 damage to an opponent to exalt him. Okay. For his deck, we have Prickly Underbrush, which one of us would gain a power, and then whenever you gain or are dealt damage, you deal 2 damage in range 1. So like a little defense almost. Just 1 of that there. Smart Approach, which is move, and then you can place a card from your discard on top of your deck. There's going to be a lot of move in this deck because I want him to actually be able to get around despite having 1 movement. Desperate Attack, which is the same as mentioned before, gain a damage to attack +2. Guardian Stance, gain a power and then +2 defense. Leap, which is blink 2, so that's like a teleport. You don't have to be able to actually walk through stuff. Primal Shot, which deals 2 damage in range 2. Give him some range. An attack, pummel, hit and run, so -1 attack, but then move. Synergy for just a trigger is just a little useful thing to get some extra power sometimes. Prickly Underbrush again. And then his exclusive cards of Stone Roll, which is a move +2, so it gets him some movement, and then attack, as well as a defense of +1 for each Quake in range 1. 2 of those. Soil Feed. You place a Quake in range 2, and then you gain 1 power for each Quake in range 2. And then if you're fighting a water, you get to move. There's 2 of that as well. And then we also have 2 of this one, which is Earth Shield. So you place a Quake in range 1, and then you get +1 defense for each Quake within range 1. So that is the 2 Mistling decks. I'm going to put those into their little thing for now until we get to combat, which might actually be pretty much right away. And I will come back to read the rest of any scenario entries and then set up combat if that's what's happening. Okay, so it looks like we are not beginning with combat here. But I'm going to first of all show this nice little art piece here for the start of the scenario. And we begin with script B1. Your mistlings shift uneasily. They're on the verge of breaking into a run, unsure if they should follow their instincts or stay with you. Several wild golemos crawl from the ruins, looking longingly into the distance where the shadow disappeared. Some even head there, while others remain, still lured by the glowing stones buried within the ruins. You stand, enveloped by the noise of the forest. You must return to the city before dawn, but first you must decide what to do about the golemos. So I'm choosing between leaving them in peace or startling them. Now, essentially I'd leave them in peace if I'm not really sure they could be the source of the tremors that were happening. I'm going to say that they're probably not, so I'm going to leave them in peace and go to script B9, which is actually really funny because benign is like non-aggressive. That's actually, anyway. You shake your head. Those few Golemos couldn't possibly be responsible for the quakes, as most of them bury themselves in the moss and brambles for the night, and the rest curiously examine the buried ruins. So we go to script B2. I'm just using this to mark where I am, so if it has me do an action, I don't lose track of where I am. The trees dance wildly in the wind, branches snapping loudly. You stumble through this mayhem, and your only beacon the faint lights in the distance. To make matters worse, flocks of mistlings keep charging past you. Trying to give a wide berth to the pack of fire beasts, you leave your path and fall into a shallow marsh. Suddenly, you realize you are one step away from a nest of Firples. They are notorious for their fierceness in defending their territory. You spot one of them, a creature with a flat snout, squinting little eyes, and nasty little yellow spikes crowning its head. Set up combat. So this is Arena Card 13, Map 5, Firple enemy, Major Corruption B if you're playing with 2 players, and then we'll close the adventure journal and start the combat. So I will cut to that. Okay, so for this combat encounter, I will be playing Golemo, because I'm fighting a water type, and our water type opponent is Firple, little pinecone guy. So we're fighting at Windfall as our terrain. I know that's kind of hard to see over there, so I'll go through it. We have these little fallen trees on the map. There's supposed to be 3 of them, but the terrain pack only comes with 2. So the third one is a little black ring over there. So it's here, here, and here. And then Firple's stats are 0 willpower, 1 defense, 20 health, 2 attack, and 2 movement. And the attack patterns will be on circle, it's place a puddle in space farthest from the opponent, blink to that space, and then he'll heal 2, and if he's fighting fire, he'll heal an additional 1. On a square, you place a puddle within range 1 of the opponent, attack, and retreat. And then on a triangle, he rushes, and attacks, so he's very fast. That pierces armor as well, and then he'll retreat 1. And for a special ability, basically it's going to discard power from his opponent that's near puddles, and for each one it discards, he'll deal damage to you. So it's basically draining your power to deal damage to you. In order to tame him, we have to get him to 5 or less health left. You have to crackle with energy, which was ending your turn with at least 8 power. And then you have to show off, which is deal at least 1 damage to Firple while there are no fallen trees in the arena. So we actually do have to destroy the trees. So, I do just want to go over one more thing, which is I forgot to add this card when I was going over my Mistling deck. The Earth Element is the standard dash and prepare actions, and then the elemental action of 4 power for unity, which you can place any card from your discard pile on the top of your discard pile, which sounds kind of pointless, but it allows you to use passive effects. So I am going to grab the enemy attack camera down here. There we go. Grab the enemy attack deck, and then deal out myself 4 cards. Okay, so I have set up the enemy attack deck. He will be first attacking with, let me flip this over, his triangle attack. Also, his special will happen on 2 over there, little black disc. So he will be starting with a triangle, which will be rush, attack, pierce 2, and then he retreats. And being that his speed is 2 and my speed is 1, I'm probably not going to be able to outdo that. So if I can, I would like to get some defense, which is going to be kind of difficult right now, considering how early we are in the game. But that's fine. We can take a little bit of damage. So I think I am actually going to start off with Earth Shield here. And I shouldn't discard them yet, I have to remember. So that will give me 3 power, which I'm going to put my power here and damage here, and then enemy damage up here. So it's not actually on the card, because that's a little more tricky to deal with. And then I place a Quake in range 1, which I will place right here. And then as long as this is face up in my discard, I will get +1 for every Quake within range 1. I then do have some amount of power. And there's not all that much I can do with 3 power right now. I could move, but I can't really do any attacks or anything, so I'm probably just going to keep it for now. So I will slide these cards down and actually, I'll be smart before I look at what that card is. I will use 1. And I will go ahead and actually get rid of one of my cards. So I'm going to get rid of Smart Approach and discard it with my Prepare. And then I actually get to draw another card, which won't matter because I'm restoring anyway. So we'll put those both back there, and I'm done. So now I pass over to Firple, who will have their first enemy attack card go right there. And then follow through that action, which is Rush, so move over here. Rush again, which it doesn't have to do because it's already right by me. And then attack with a Pierce of 2. So its attack is 2. I have 0 defense. Actually, I have 1 defense. No, I don't, because I discarded. And it wouldn't have mattered anyway because there's Pierce. So I will just be taking 2 damage, which I will have to grab. It's always going to take me a little bit to grab damage just because of where it is. Okay. So now I have 2 little damages. And I have 24 health, so 2 is not very much, but it's still damage that I'd rather not be taking. And then combat will pass back to me. And I know I need to destroy the trees too. So I think I'm going to go ahead and use Synergy to do a trigger. And I'm going to trigger Soil Feed. Now, when I first use Synergy, I do gain 3 power. And then it resolves Soil Feed without gaining power for it. So I will place a Quake within range 2. I'm going to place it right there. And then we'll go ahead and gain 1 for every Quake within range 2, which will give me 2 power, if I can grab them. We're up to 7 power. And then since I'm going against a water type, I can move if I want to. And I actually do. I'm going to move myself up over here. And then Soil Field will be discarded and Synergy will be discarded. Now, it's going to be Piercing 2 anyway, so though I could use Unity to get the 1 card back face up on my discard, it wouldn't be that helpful, being that it will just pierce the 2 anyway. So I'm not going to bother with spending power on that. I am going to actually spend 2 power, though. I'm just going to move them up here to say that they're not on me, to actually do Tromp, which will allow me to place another Quake within range 2. And I will place that Quake right here. So really, I'm just trying to surround everything with Quakes. That way, when I get my card, or not card, that way when I have enough for Tremors, I can deal a lot of damage. So likely I'll be able to actually do that this next turn since I'm at 5. As long as I use Primal Shot, I could use Primal Shot on either, and then get a bunch of damage on him. So now he's going to go ahead and do his main thing again, and then he's going to use his special. So Triangle is Rush, Rush, Attack. He's already at, like, right next to me, so he does not need to rush. And then he's going to attack and Pierce 2. I keep forgetting he's supposed to retreat 1. It's fine. It wouldn't have affected anything in this case. So he will attack me again, dealing 2 damage. Once the damage gets out of here, it's not going to be as hard to use again, but for right now, it just takes me a little bit to pull it out. So we got 4 damage. And then he's going to retreat 1, which puts him right here. And then he's going to use his special, which is I will discard a power for every puddle within range 2 of me, and there aren't any puddles out right now because he hasn't used that attack. He has decided to rush, and he will be rushing again next turn, apparently. So, let's go ahead and do my turn. So, I'm going to use Primal Shot, which will give me 3 power. There's 2 right there. I'll get another one, so that brings me to 3, 6, 8, which is the exact amount I need for the Tremors ability, which is great. So, with Primal Shot, I'm going to go ahead and actually, for the 2 damage, because I believe I can target it with any source. Yeah, I can target it with any source. So I'm going to destroy the little log that's over here, which also gives me an exit, and mainly because I need to be taming it. So then, for my bonus action, I'm going to spend all 8 power that I have for Tremors, and that will basically deal 2 damage for each quake within range 2 of my opponent, which is all 3 of them. So that's going to deal 6 damage, just quite a hit of damage all at once. And I think I mentioned this earlier, but the combat quest for Golem is to deal 12 damage in 1 turn, and that feels a lot more doable now that I know 6 is pretty easy to deal. So that will be 6 damage on him. And then I am out of power and have already used an action card, so we'll just do this little refresh thing here and go to the enemy. So we're going to move their cards down, and they're going to do a triangle. I'm just going to flip it right now so I don't have to pick it up again. Triangle, which is rush, rush. So rush, attack with Pierce 2, which will deal another 2 damage to me. So I'm going to take these little damage, and I'm just going to put those in the middle and swap it out with the 5, because that would be the 6. So I've now taken 6 damage. And then he will retreat 1 and jump back. I feel like if I can catch Firple, it's going to be very nice to have a faster character, because Luminous is decently fast, and Golemo is not. So, also having a water type would be nice. So we'll see if I can do it. I'm going to try. And now I'm going to go ahead and take my turn. I don't have any great options. I think I'll do Earth Shield to place a Quake within range 1 again. And this will also give me 2 power. Can't forget the power. So we'll place a Quake right here. Actually, I should check. Because that's gonna place a puddle near me, but he's gonna move towards me. Oh, actually, he's gonna retreat. That could be trickier. But I can retreat him. I have to retreat him over here, or here, or here. Here's better. I'll probably do that. So, anyway, we place the Quake within range 1, and then this becomes a defense passive on top of my discard. I could do a Tromp. I don't think I'm going to be able to get enough power in 1 turn, though, otherwise. So I'm going to just let him take his turn. I'll have a 3 defense right now. So he's going to go ahead and place a puddle. Or actually, I have to slide this over first. So he's going to go ahead and do his square action, which will place a puddle over here. He wants it to be within range 1 of the opponent. And I'm going to put it in between, I think. Actually, it's supposed to... I think he wants it closer to himself because it's kind of unclear. I'm going to just go with that assumption. And then he's going to attack and he's going to retreat over here. I forgot to slide my stuff over after I went. Let's do that. So now there's a puddle over there. And I will take my turn in a second here. Okay, back to my turn. So, where were we? I am going to try and actually get some amount of power back. So I'm going to want to move. Now there's no great way for me to go about doing that. Actually, can I even get close enough? I can, but I have to use blink, and then it's pointless to have gotten that close. And he's going to be placing a puddle. So let's go ahead and just try and get a little bonus, maybe. He's just basically running away from me. I have an idea. I'm going to leap. Or I shouldn't put it over there yet. I'm going to leap, which will give me 2 power. And then I can blink 2 with that, which teleports me over here. And then I will use 1 power for a move, which lets me move 1 more space. And that way, I guess the unfortunate part with doing that is that I'm basically setting myself up to get hit again. However, it also forces him back within the tremors, or quake tokens. So, I'm going to do that, and just take that risk, I guess. I'm also going to use 1 for a prepare, though. And I'll get rid of hit and run. Or is he only moving? I'll get rid of guardian stance. Or, no, we'll get rid of prickly underbrush this time. And then I get to replace it with 1. That's a useful card. And another one, just desperate attack. Okay. So now we go over to the enemy turn. He's doing another square activation here, which will be placing a puddle within range 1 of the opponent, or me. He'll place it right here this time, I think. Or actually, let's just put them right next to each other. No, over here. So we'll do that, and then he will attack and then retreat. So for his attack, it's 2. I don't have any defense right now. Actually, I might not have any defense, but I have prickly underbrush, which will make it, because it's on top even if I didn't play it. So, since I'm gaining damage, I'll deal damage. So how that will work is I will take my 2 damage from getting hit by him, and then he will take 2 damage, because he is within range 1, and that's what it does. I forget that you don't have to actually use the cards to get that effect. And then he will do his retreat +1, which is going to be 1, 2, 3. And then it goes back to me. That rhymed. So, I will go ahead and I'd like to get some more movement. So I think what I'm actually going to do, because I'm not going to be able to get enough, or not movement, power. I'm not going to be able to get enough power this turn anyway. I'm going to go ahead and use that. So basically what's going to happen is I can prepare. So I'm going to discard hit and run, and then scoot everything down and draw another one. That way I have a little better options here. Soil feed would be really nice, because I could get, how much, 4 power from that, plus the 1, that's 5. It's almost actually, it's kind of close. I guess I'll do stone roll, just to get some more damage in. So I will gain 2 power for using a card in that slot, and then I can move +2, so I can move up to 3. And I think I'm going to scoot myself to that side of him. And then I can attack, which will deal 2 damage. So we'll just take those off of him. all of those off of him and replace with a 10, so he's down to half health. And then, as long as this is there, I will gain +1 defense for every quake I'm within range 1 of. Actually, I'm going to move myself over here then instead, because I might as well be within range 1 of all of those and have 4 defense, so I won't be getting hit by anything. And then, for his turn, I'm going to discard an enemy attack, I guess. And then he's using the circle activation, which will place a puddle in the space farthest from the opponent. There's a max of 5 puddles. The farthest space from me would be over here. So he does that, and then he blinks to that space, which is really annoying. And then he will heal 2, which just undoes the damage I just did. I mean, at least he's not trying to attack me. The one turn I was actually ready to get attacked is the one turn he's not. Oh well. So, back to me, because there's still 1 card left here. I'm also kind of annoyed that I'm going to be getting fatigued now. But I'd rather, I guess, get fatigued than lose. Since it's kind of pointless to fight him right now, I am going to, being that he's just going to blink around more, if I go over to him, I'm going to go ahead and do Soil Feed, actually. So I place a Quake within range 2. I should also gain a power first. 2 power. That brings me up to 5. So I will place a Quake within range 2, which I did, and then gain 1 for every Quake within range 2, which will be 3 plus another 2, so 5, which gets me to 10 power. Yeah, okay. And then since I'm fighting a water, I can actually move 1. And then we will well, do I want to get rid of any of these, I should say. I think I will actually get rid of Pummel here. So I'll do a prepare. Or I could be smart. No, because he's not attacking me anyway. So I'll get rid of Pummel. I was going to say I could get rid of Guardian Stance otherwise. And then I'll just end my turn. Plus, because that empties my deck, I'm supposed to reshuffle it immediately, I believe. I don't wait until I need to draw a card. Okay. So then it will pass to Firple, and Firple is going to be actually resetting their deck over here. So I'll have to do that, and then I'll also have to gain a fatigue. And I believe the fatigue does not affect me this combat, but it will in the future combats. So let's just grab fatigue real quick. I believe it's, if I can find a fatigue. There we go. I got a fatigue. I'm just going to set that off to the side here for now. And then the circle activation of placing a puddle in the farthest space from the opponent. So that's 4. That's 4. I think I'm actually going to place it back over there in hopes that he ends up eventually going over there again. Which he will immediately, but I'm saying like going back to this little quake area. So then he's going to blink over there and heal 2. And I need to put this face up. So for my turn, let's go ahead. I have a lot of power right now. I should use it for something. He's only within range 2 of 1 right now, so it's not really worth doing 1 damage. Or I guess 2 damage. I don't really have a good way of getting him any closer, so I'm actually going to go ahead and use 1 power to just do a normal move. And then use Stone Roll, which will give me 1 power back. It's unnecessary, actually, to use that 1 power in the first place. So I will just go back and not, I guess. So I'll just, yeah, because this gives me +2 to move. So if I'm here, we use stone roll, we gain 1 power, and then we move 3 because my movement's already 1. We get to go right there, and then we attack. So that will deal 2 damage again. And then I'll have this defense available. Except that because it doesn't really make sense to have that since it's only protecting me from 1 anyway, I'm actually going to go ahead and use 1 power to prepare, discarding Prickly Underbrush, so I have that there instead. And then we'll replace these cards. So then Purple will take their turn. And Firple will be using a square activation, and then special this turn. So placing a puddle within range 1 of the opponent. We are at 4 puddles currently. It is now 5 puddles. It's going right on my space. And then going to attack and retreat. So for the attack, it will deal 2 damage to me, unfortunately, which actually brings me to 10 damage, so I'm still doing okay on my health considering that I have 24, but 10 damage is not a great amount to have. And then I will then deal 2 damage back. I'll just grab another 10 because of Prickly Underbrush. And then Firple will retreat 2 spaces. Now within range of 3 of those, which makes me a lot happier. I don't know why I said it that way. I'm going to, for my turn, actually do Earth Shield. I think Earth Shield. Does that make sense? Yes, Earth Shield. So I can place a Quake within range 1. I already have a lot of Quakes around. I'm going to take one of these ones that's farther away and put it right here. Oh wait, it's placing it within range 1. Okay. This is kind of a weird strategy. Let's try it though. Soil Feed. I will gain 1 power from this, and I will not gain any of the power for the rest of the effect here, which would normally, if I can, should normally give me power for every Quake I'm near. But I'm going to move the Quake from over there to over here. And then it actually does let me move as well. So I'm going to move over here. Actually, what's the next action? It's going to be trying to teleport away again and heal. I'm going to move over here then. So I'm a little bit closer to where he'll go. So that will get discarded. And then I'm going to use my Tremors, I think. Tremors? Well, I still have 10. So I could actually do Tromp. And get another one placed. Because I could get all 5. Yeah, let's do that. No, because I can't have 5 near him. It would kill him. Because he's at 10 right now. So right now he's taking 4 hits of it, which is going to be 8 damage already. So we can't really do that. So let's just go ahead and use 8 power here, which might be a lot, but it's also doing 8 damage, so it's worth it. So that's 8 power, and then he's near 4 different Quakes, so 2 damage for each one since he has no willpower. And he will take a lot of damage. So he's up to 18, which means I have completed the first goal for taming on this card over here. So I will place an A token onto Tire It Out for getting it to 5 or less health remaining. My next goal is to end my turn with at least 8 power, and then deal a damage to it while there's no fallen trees in the arena. And I have to make sure it's 1 damage. No, because it will heal. And I don't think I'm pretty sure as long as I've completed that, I don't have to keep it that way. So since it's about to heal anyway, I should be fine. So now it's going to restore 1. And then, just checking. Yeah, okay. then we will skip. Oh, did I never do its effect? I never did its effect. I should have one less power and one less health. I forgot to activate Firple's special. Okay, so now we go to Firple's turn. Scoot over there, and we do a circle activation. So we place a puddle as far away as possible from them, which will be over here. And then Firple will teleport over there, or blink is the correct term. And heal 2, which is fine. And then that's actually all that one does. I don't mind that attack, it's just annoying that it heals, but I've dealt with the health factor now. So now my goal is to go ahead and get to 8 power and also destroy those trees. And the next attack will be a square, and they'll just be trying to stay away from me. So at this point, I really just want to go for the power, I think. For the moment, at least. So let's do that. Actually, all of these fallen trees should be destroyed because you can treat them as an opponent for the purpose of attacks and dealing damage. And Tremors does damage to each opponent, meaning that these trees are actually supposed to be destroyed. Which makes my job a little bit easier, because I've almost completed the final objective then. But Guardian Stance, we will use... Yeah, we'll use Guardian Stance. So I'll gain 3 for the slot, 1 for the ability, and then discard it, which will give me that +2 while it's over there. However, I'd get +3 if I have Earth Shield discarded, but I really just want to have power at the end of the turn, which I don't have enough anyway. So I'll do this for the extra... Oh, am I getting attacked? No. So why would I care about the armor? Because I need to attack. Okay. I got it now. No. I won't have enough then. Okay. I'm just going to keep it how it is. End my turn. And then we pass to Firple, who goes ahead and does a square activation. So placing a puddle near me, I'm going to place the farthest one to the closest space. And then attack and retreat. And the retreat will just go over here, I think. Because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's 6 either way. So I probably stay in the puddle space actually. Let's go with that. Okay. So let's go ahead and do my turn. And it won't be the last turn, I guess. It'll be the second to last, hopefully. Because I don't want to get a second fatigue card in my deck. That would not be good. So let's go ahead and try to get some energy or power and deal some damage. So with the goal of getting power, the most efficient way I can do it right now is Desperate Attack, even if I'm not hitting anything, just for the 3 power, bringing me up to 7. And I'm actually going to spend 1 for a Prepare, knowing that's a triangle, so double rush. I'm going to take and discard Earth Shield. Actually, discard Prickly Underbrush, because that would deal damage. So Show Off would actually trigger from that. Wait. No, because I don't have enough. I don't want to trigger that. So we'll just discard Earth Shield for defense, which restocks Primal Shot, which could do some damage. And then we'll put Synergy over here. That's not a good spot for Synergy, but it's fine. So Firple's turn. we go over here, triangle activation, rush, rush, and then attack with Pierce 2 and retreat +1. So 1, 2, 3. So there's all sorts of jumping around. I'm not sure I ever did the retreat +1 before. I might have missed that. Oh well, we're still getting used to it, and it probably didn't affect anything. I don't remember. Anyway, let's go ahead and try to finish this. So let's do a Earth Shield for the sake of getting the power. I'll just place a Quake right here, not that side up, that side up. And then I'll get 3 power from that, which is more than enough. I just have to end my turn with 8. So I can actually still lose a power and be fine, which is perfect, because I will discard that one. And do I want to move with it? It won't matter if I do, because he's going to be retreating again. So I think I will discard... No, it does matter. I'll do this. Prickly Underbrush with a Prepare. So that's discarding that. And then that Prepare will reset that with Smart Approach. And then I also get Hit and Run added over here, because he's getting close enough to hit me. So I'm going to end my turn now, which I do. And then I have completed Crackle with Energy. And since there's no fallen trees in the arena anymore, I just have to deal 1 damage, which will happen when he hits me. So, discard and scoot those down. And then we do a triangle activation. And that triangle activation is rush, rush, and attack. So he'll attack me, which will deal damage. It will deal 2 damage. However, the moment he attacks me and deals that damage, I deal 2 damage in range 1. So I will now be hitting him with Prickly Underbrush and dealing 2 damage. Bring him up to 18, but that's not the part that matters. The part that matters is that completes the show-off objective. So now, I have successfully tamed him. Probably. So, it's now the end of combat, and I get to go to script B11, so I will bring that up. The Mistling's vicious sneer disappears. The Mistling allows you to approach the nest, and you ensure that there are no cubs here. You show the Firple your interest in teaming up, and it seems eager. A feisty look returns to its eyes. For now, the Firple will be accompanying you from a distance, as you cannot maintain more than 2 strong connections between you and your Mistlings. So each Mistling who took part in this combat will heal up to half, rounded down, of their health. I am currently at 13 out of 24, so I only heal 1 health, because you're not healing an amount of that. It's kind of like if you've played Nemesis. I'm going to use that comparison a lot, being that I have played a lot of Nemesis. You draw up to 5 cards, not as in you choosing to draw as many as that. It means that's the maximum you're going to. So since I have 24 health, 12 is half of my maximum. So I heal up to 12 health, which leaves me at 12 in this case. If you are below 12 damage on you, you would not heal. So I will then basically take all the Firple components and add them to my party, as well as adding Firple to the Mistling Encyclopedia, and then clear the arena. And I will be back right after I do that. Okay, so before we finish up part 1 of the Shadow of the Dragon scenario, I would like to mention that I have, of course, cleaned up the combat area. And after that, I have basically added Firple to my party, not to the 2 active Mistlings that I have, Luminessa and Golemo, because I don't get full access to Firple until the next scenario. If I choose to take Firple, that is. I might have better options, I'm not sure. But basically, we've taken care of all that moving of those, and Firple has been added to the Mistling Encyclopedia here, right above Luminessa. So if you're interested in reading, if I can get rid of the glare, any of the Firple text, go ahead and take a look at that. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed part 1 of Shadow of the Dragon from Scenario 1 of Dragon Eclipse, and we'll see you in the next one.